people that are government dependent. Out of control debt, enslavement, the government, and broken family is not a formula for a great country. But the good news is we can change. But there's serious work to be done because we have serious challenges. And getting a message of freedom and personal responsibility into our schools and into our hard-hit communities should be a top priority for people that want to live free and preserve the founding of this country of ours and the undergird of the Judeo-Christian heritage. What is the message? The secular statism is what increases poverty. The steps out of poverty aren't rocket science. I've done many columns on you can stay poor. You know, my book, How the Poor Get Rich, I am going to sit down and begin to write that book all in its fullness and get it out, I promise. Because I've been saying for a year and a half, even to my publisher, no, I'm working on it, even while I'm in Orlando this weekend, and I'm working on it again. But I'm going to write it. I say, you know, there's no formula for how to get rich. If there were, I would actually put it in that book and then get rich as a result of putting the formula in there. No, we're talking about fate to destiny, and there's no promise that you're going to have certain things, and some preachers even will try to pretend that if you do X, Y, Z, then you're going to get a miraculous occurrence as a result. Life isn't like that, but we can just move through. But there is a formula, on the other hand, to stay poor. There's no formula to get rich, but there is one to stay poor. If you are irresponsible with all of your choices, if you do not go to school, if you will not work, and if you blame all of your problems on somebody else, you are guaranteed to be poor. But you can reverse those things and perhaps find steps out of poverty so that you can live in God's peace and in his provision. What he did say, in order for you to know that you are going to have a tremendously financially blessed life, is that if you tithe and you give offering, that he will open the windows of heaven and pour out blessings that you will not have room to receive. But we don't know and can't determine what those blessings are going to be. The steps out of poverty aren't rocket science, yet it takes free people to take them. And it's insulting when liberals pretend that they care about the poor, yet they stand in the way of very things that will help poor people, school choice vouchers and personal retirement accounts, both measures that will open the path for economic prosperity and independence. The poor more than anyone need help to get their children out of broken schools and from broken healthcare policy and broken housing policies and broken retirement policies and broken welfare policies. This is one of the reasons that I'm in Washington, D.C. It's one of the reasons that we have to continue to work in different fronts, in media, on Capitol Hill, and in our harder hit communities, so that people will understand that there are eternal truths and that there are boundaries that should not be crossed. Our times necessitate that both sexual integrity and religion are protected from the onslaught of secular statism. No more than should my auto insurance cover my neighbor's tune-up, should my health insurance cover their sex life. Not their Viagra, not their condoms, not their birth control devices, and certainly not their abortion. It's not in the Constitution. Nowhere in the Constitution is it that politicians have a right to force religious institutions and religious people to subsidize activities, behaviors, and life choices that they consider abhorrent and are violent in their tenets of their faith. It's not in the Declaration of Independence that politicians have a right to force free people to pay for what the Department of Health and Human Services says is health insurance. And I'm telling you, this battle against Obamacare is one that we must fight. For anyone that believes that there are boundaries in our constitutions which politicians can't cross. Boundaries so our nation can be free. Boundaries that our founders themselves were forced to debate for some 80 years regarding slavery, because freedom and the ideals of personal liberty conflicted with the law of the very land that they themselves established. And we are no longer a free country when politicians get to define truth. I don't know if time allows for me to talk about the cost to Christians if we're forced to leave the business of serving our nation's most vulnerable. They've given us three options through Obamacare. One, bow your knee to Nebuchadnezzar. Two, pay a fine to Caesar. Or three, leave the business. And what particular business is that's laying in the balance? What is the specific business that the church is doing that the secular left has declared war on? Care for our nation's elderly, our nation's weak, our nation's sick, our nation's orphans. This is the work of Catholic charities. This is the work of Catholic hospitals. This is the work of Protestant pregnancy care centers. This is the work of Protestant homeless shelters. Let's talk about the orphan, the elderly, the widow, the sickly, the homeless, and the wretched. Somebody loves them. Somebody bathes them, somebody nourishes them, somebody's praying for them, and somebody even gives them peaceful last rites and holds their hand while they die. And who are these somebodies that the secular left has declared war on? Our Lady of Liberty proclaimed to the world to give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses that are yearning to breathe free. And huddled we have 500,000 orphans are in our foster system. Poor we have 700,000 homeless in our gutters and our alleys. And tired we have. There are over 1 million unvisited seniors in our nursing home. Yet only a few and faithful rise to the occasion to handle the details of the amazing work of caring for these most indigent and needy on our behalf. A few decent and humble people in quiet communities doing the invisible and nonprofit work for us, compelled by their God. And now they're under attack. And people think that we shouldn't be engaged in political interest. We need to make sure that our voices are heard. This is why I hope that my being here with you at this WIN conference will encourage you to do something, anything, to engage our cultural war so that both America and our children will live.